Hello and welcome, my unicorns shooting skittles out of your buttocks. It's SJB here, and boy, do I got a video for y'all. I want to point out that this video is actually designed to be more of a knowledge-based video than a BTD6 video. I know that some of you guys, you want to see some eye candy in the background, you want to watch the gameplay a little bit, and I do want to talk about really quickly the new change to the Druid, which I think is obviously frickin' amazing. Helps us out in any way, shape, or form. But the weird thing about it is, I can't believe this. We are literally buffing the highest rated, best rated tower in the entirety of the game. The Spirit of the Forest Path, specifically the Jungle's Bounty here. And Ninja Kiwi buffed it! Why? It was ranked literally in the Tournament of Champions, the #1 tower. It beat out even the big plane, every single other upgrade in the game, and Ninja Kiwi decided, you know what? Let's buff it again. So what was the change? So some people might argue that this isn't a buff, it's just a change, Chris. Like, you're overstating it, but like, again, it doesn't even matter. To me, it's a positive, and they made it even better. When you click this ability, it doesn't require me to click it 3 times. I only have to click it once, and all of that will generate money. So, we can have 50 druids. We click this button and boop, we generate $50,000 or whatever. It's insane. So that's, of course, exactly what I want to do in this video. I want to do a big druid army. I want to build a bunch of banana farms, get my middle path druids going, use their money to make me a ton of money, and talk about compound interest in terms of BTD6 and compound interest in terms of real life. I want to merge those two things together. And I think the easiest way to talk about compound interest is opening up with a unrealistic, ridiculous factor. Okay, now I will mention that I'm bringing most of this back out of my memory, and some of these numbers may be like a bit skewed, but the general gist of it all is fairly accurate. And if you guys want to, you can feel free in the comments below to say, Chris, well, you're a little bit off, you're a smidgety off on this one. If you want to get the real exact number, do it like this. So anyways, let's start off by building a bunch of banana farms. I just want to make a bunch of money by building a bunch of banana farms, but I don't even want to upgrade these banana farms. Even though banana farms are kind of a tower that you usually want to get at least a 2-0 with and then kind of like upgrade from there, it's really not a bad idea to just throw down base banana farms because they're actually reasonably efficient. I'm also going to be lazy and I'm going to build a banana farmer, and I think that that's okay because I'm a lazy butthole. Anyways, so compound interest. If you want to talk about compound interest, the easiest way to understand it is the doubling effect. So, whenever you start off with something even so minor as, for example, we're going to talk about things in terms of a penny. Okay, if you double a penny and just keep doubling that penny, and you do it in a compound way instead of just doubling it from its initial value. If you double it from its initial value and you double a penny to 2 pennies and then double it again to make 3 pennies, then double it again to make 4 pennies, and then double it again to make 5 pennies, you're never going to get anywhere, right? But if you do it compound-wise and you make it so you have, instead of, you go from 1 penny to 2 pennies, you double the 2 pennies to 4, the 4 to 8, the 8 to 16 pennies, the 16 pennies to 32 days, or 32 pennies, it can get kind of wild. You can see that after just a couple days, like a week, you've made, what, 64 cents? That's not bad. But if you continue this for a month, believe it or not, you make over $1 million. If you just took a penny and you doubled it, and you doubled again, and doubled again, you do that 30 times, you make over $1 million. So compounding something, compound interest, and the doubling of it is just ridiculous. It's absolutely insane to imagine how much money you could make if you trick somebody. It's just doubling your penny for 30 days. You could even, I think that was the original argument of it. Say, hey, I'll work for you for a penny a day, and all I want you to do is for the entirety of this month, I just want you to double it. Give me 2 pennies on the second day, and 4 pennies on the third day, and 8 pennies on the fourth day, and all that other stuff. And somebody agreed to it, and they were like, oh, wait, I'm paying you $1 million on the 30th day? Like, that's not cool. That's not fair. That's not fun. I didn't realize that was going to happen. Like, points out, like, oh, you were just an idiot. You didn't do the math, Grit. You didn't do the math, guy. So anyways, check out this money, by the way. Banana farms are a good example of compound interest. Kind of. The way that this works is we are making a banana farm, which is making us money, which I can then use that money to buy more banana farms, which then I can use that money to buy more banana farms, which then I can use that money to buy more banana farms. You can see how it compounds over time. Our money becomes more and more and more. Now, in real life, you don't normally make a doubling. It just doesn't work, all right? But banks will usually give you a percentage of your money as something called interest. So a bank, for example, would give you, if you have like a regular bank account, they're probably going to give you like a very, very low interest rate. I think my account right now is either 0.01% or it's 0. It's so low. Banks just don't give you money anymore for having money unless you put it into a specific account. So if you put it into specific accounts, specifically there's a lot of online accounts out there. They'll give you 3, 4, 5%, kind of depending on the bank and depending on how things are going with the economy. And you can easily find them. I think right now I use Discover as my main like high interest savings account, and I think they're giving out 4.5 right now. But I think there's even one that's giving out like over 5, which is pretty good if you really think about it. But that's 5%. So instead of a penny turning into 2 pennies, it's going to take you a long time. It's going to take you a while to get that doubling factor with only 5% as your interest. But if you have $100 after a year, turning into $105 is not a bad deal. If you had $1 million, though, you can turn that $1 million into $150,000 by the end of the year, which really is not a bad amount of money to make for free, right? I mean, 5% can actually be a pretty big deal overall. $50,000 for free by the end of the year just by having $1 million, Chris? Yes, it can. Oh boy, all right, so we got a little bit of trouble here, but I think we can manage, hopefully. Just a little bit of combos in here. I'm going to go for one last banana farm, and then we're going to start getting ready for our druid army in the middle of the map. So, anyways, just know that 5% is a pretty good savings account number, at least right now, but it can, change over time. But in the stock market, things get a little more interesting. Now, we don't know what's going to happen forever, but you can look at the past 100+ years, and if you look at the past 100+ years, generally the stock market grows at approximately between 5 to 10% per year. You always have bad years. You can have bad years, a bad season, a bad decade. You can have bad everything. But generally, it grows at about 5 to 10% per year, and it averages about 10% per year, and that's even including inflation. So if you end up just putting money in the stock market instead of a savings account, long term, it will make you more money. At least that's the idea. Of course, you have more risk involved because in the short term, it could go down, and nobody likes just saying, hey, I put $1,000 in here, and right now it's worth $700. And then you try to pull it out, and you're like, no, I don't want to lose any more money, and then the stock market goes up, and all that gains that you would have gotten are no longer there. It can be quite upsetting to have that happen to you, and I feel I feel the sentiment. Whenever you put money in somewhere and you lose money on it, you're like, no, that's not fair. That's not cool. It's not reasonable to expect that, and to have diamond hands and just hold on to that loss to value. But that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to just hold on to it because in the long term, it should generate more money for you. So anyways, what I wanted to do for you guys is I wanted to pretend like I was going to make some compound interest happen over the course of many years. This is mainly involving like retirement values, right? So a lot of people are out there right now, and I feel like just don't understand the numbers. If you just did like some quick math with it, telling somebody that if you just put in $100,000 that it would turn into $1 million like over a long time would be kind of weird to hear. You're like, what do you mean? I could just put in $100,000 and eventually it would turn into $1 million. Let me give you guys an example. So if you were working a pretty decent job, okay, a decent enough job where you were able to I don't know, I'm kind of afraid of lead balloons here, but I don't really think I can do much with this. A pretty decent job where you're able to save up $10,000 every year in your 20s. So, for example, if you were 20 years old, 21 years old, 22 years old, 23 years old, every single year you saved up $10,000 and you just put it in the stock market. Now, if you never made a single dollar ever again, you just left that $100,000, again, $10,000 over 10 years in the stock market, by the time you retire, which would be, we're going to call it 35 years later. We're not even going to go up to 67. We're going to say 35 years later. I want to show you guys a graph. So you can watch me making some money in the background here while I just show you this quick graph here. The blue line here is just how much money we put into the stock market. All right. It's 100 grand. I said that we were going to make 8% annually. So we're making 8% back, but we're compounding that. So when we, our first year, we're only making 8 grand. Our second year, I don't know exactly what that'd be, but like 8,500 or something like that. And you just keep doing more and more and more. You compound it on top of itself. And just like this druid right here, making 970 bucks for me right now, by the time we get to build another druid, he's going to be making us even more money, doubling this and tripling it, and then making more and more and more and more. But either which way, if we just put $100,000 in, if we started off at 30 years old with $100,000 in the stock market, by the time we retire at age 65, our money would be worth $1.552 million. $1.5 million. That's pretty freaking good. I mean, like all things considered, that's pretty solid, right? I mean, I'm happy. Okay, that's kind of an issue. That's kind of an issue here. Let's see if we can maybe pull this off. We do! Random druid down there. All right, scary stuffs, but we make it happen. But either which way, let's get rid of this image real quick. That just kind of points out that if you start off with a pretty good amount of money at a fairly young age and you just let it grow, you'll be making lots of money in the long run. Now, this is not a new concept. If you go to like any economy class or anything, they're going to be teaching you the exact same thing. They're going to be telling you time invested over long periods of time equals lots of money. Compound interest is one of the most beautiful things in the entire world. Yeah, I mean, it is, if you can make it happen. But it also means that if you already have a lot of money, it is way easier to continue having a lot of money. Which is where I think a lot of people are upset, because you know what? Saving up $10,000 in your 20s is very difficult, because a lot of people are just starting to get their earnings potential going. Most people aren't even out of college by the time they're age 22. Or if you do jump straight into the workforce, saving up $10,000 while also trying to afford rent and food and all this other stuff is very, very difficult unless you got a bunch of help from your parents specifically, which is also one of those things that, like, not everybody can rely on. So getting going is so unbelievably difficult. And for a lot of people, what happens is they spend their entirety of their 20s either not understanding the system, not having the money to invest in the system. And by the time they're in their, mid-30s, they're like, well, now I got to start a family. And then they're like, wait, I'm 40 years old, I'm 45 years old, and I have to, like, start thinking about retirement. And by that time, it's I don't want to call it too late, but it's going to be so much more difficult. So let me show you one more graph. All right, so we are currently making a lot of money with our druids right now. I'm going to get the spam flowing in here. I do want to make sure I get a village or something in here as well. But here we go. We got at least 2 of these jungle bounties going for now. Soon we're going to have 4 of these puppies flowing. And let's build a village. Let's build them right in here. I think we're probably going to stop with whatever fits inside of here. If we can get 5 or 6, that would be good enough for us. But while we're doing that, I want to point out that we did a new graph here. All right, so the blue line is how much money we have put in and are putting in. So in this situation, we didn't start putting in any money until we were 40 years old. Okay, our kids are finally starting to get a little bit older. We finally have enough reasonable money to kind of put money into the stock market at this point. And we decide that we're going to start off by just putting in straight $100,000. Okay, we sold a house or we did whatever. We put $100,000 and we just put that in the stock market at 40. That's the first time we have the ability to start saving up our money. Coolio. So we put $100K in, but then in addition to that, now that we're doing a decent job in life, we're also going to put $1,000 in the stock market every single month. $1,000. That's $12,000 a year. Okay, so after 25 years, we're putting in almost $400,000 into the stock market, and by the end of it all, we still only get about the same amount of money, just over $1.5 million, as if we just started off with $100,000 and let it grow for 35 years instead. So that 10-year difference is going to cause us unbelievable differences in how much money we have to invest to get the same output. It's absurd. Just 10 years. Can make it so instead of 100K, we have to put in about 400K to get the same exact thing happen. That is kind of wild. Here we go. We go. Whoop, and we get another. Oh, look at this money, bro. Oh, my God. It's flowing in here. I think the next thing we're going to do is just go jump straight into a Spirit of the Forest. Can I fit one more of these guys? I mean, I could put one over here. It's not going to be as effective, but you know what? Sure, why not? Let's do it. We can get some more Jungle's Bounties up in here. And then we're going to go with the Spirit of the Forest, and then we should just start dominating, like hardcore. This is with a bunch of baby banana farms at this point. So I probably will talk about banana farms in a little bit, but for now, it just doesn't matter that much. So anyways, I want to show you guys another graph here in just a second, but I think I've hammered the point across that compound interest is your friend. So if you have the ability, and even though it's difficult, even though it sucks, if you have the ability to start trying now, it will help you out a lot in the long run, okay? So let me show you guys like one alternate graph here where things get a little more wild, a little more crazy, if you catch my drift. All right, one more weirdo graph here. You're going to look at this, you're going to say, in 65 years, you will have $15 million, okay? What does that mean? Well, let's say that your parent... I'm going to give you guys a scenario. Let's say your parents were kind of rich, okay? I'm also going to do this. Boom, boom. Your parents were kind of rich, and they decided that even though this is not actually possible to happen, technically speaking, it kind of could happen just by them doing it to themselves. But anyways, let's say that your parents decided that they wanted to open an investment account with you as soon as you were born. And you got $100,000 just put into that account because you know what? Your parents were fairly rich. And they just decided, let it grow. Let it grow. Put it in the stock market. Let it grow. By the time you were 65, you would have $15 million. Now, keep in mind again that this is supposed to be inflation-proofed. So, $15 million now is not going to be the exact same as $15 million in 15 years. It's going to be worth less. But this is supposed to be an equivalent. A rough equivalent, because it's supposed to grow at roughly like 10% per year, and it's hopefully the 8% plus the 2% is the about 10% that the stock market's going to grow. At least that is it again, in ideal, perfect situation. That is what we're hoping to have happen. Boom! Another like $14,000 right there. Not bad, dude. Not bad. All right, a few more abilities. We're gonna have Spirit of the Forest going and start dominating. I mean, right now Moabs are kind of the only real issue, but things are going well. But I guess... Oh, gosh, this is a little scary here. I guess the whole point of this is that if you were really well off, your parents thought ahead, and they were able to do something like this for you, you could be so rich so early. Instead of waiting until 65, though, if you decide, you know what, I don't want to work that long, you can look at any point in this chart and decide what's worth it to you. So, at about 30 years old, you could say, you know what, got $1 million at this point. I think I'm happy. I think I'm just gonna retire with my $1 million. Great. Your parents set you up, bro. They hooked you up, and you are set to go. You were golden. So you could do that at any point on this red line in the graph and say, hey, at age 42, I don't know what that is exactly, but it's like $3 million. At age 50, we could retire with like $4.5 or $5 million. Like, yeah. That all sounds fantastic. Fan-freaking-tastic. So getting started early is obviously very, very important. Now, keep in mind that you have never put a single dollar in this situation into the stock market. Your parents gave you $100,000 at birth, and it just let it grow. You never had to do anything. Just poof, it just happens. But this is why people complain about generational wealth. If you had somebody who decided that they wanted to do that for every kid they had or every grandkid that they had, and they just gave them that money at birth and just kind of let it go to town and let it grow, like you can see how in just a very, very short period of time, things could get absolutely wild. I think one country, and don't quote me on this, one country was trying to do something like this. I think it was Sweden, where they were like, we have enough money in surplus that they were going to basically just like put money into an account for every kid that was born and just kind of let it ride in the stock market, basically. And then as long as the stock market doesn't completely and utterly crash and not exist forever, aka basically the entire world exploding, which hopefully shouldn't happen, then we're setting the entirety of our country up and every single person who is born in a very, very positive way. Instead, the United States, which is where I'm from, seems like they're doing almost the opposite. They're like, well, now we're going to keep our national debt up to, you know, $37 trillion or whatever it is these days. I don't even frickin' know, which is basically borrowing from everybody that's born after that. so we're doing the exact opposite of them. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm not an economist. I don't understand all the intricacies of national debt and all this stuff. But I can tell you right now, it's not a good thing to have a super duper high national debt. And if we could lower it, that would be probably a pretty good thing. But yeah, it is what it is. So anyways, that's kind of my general talk about compound interest in general, is just make sure you try to do it as early as you possibly can. Let it grow. Let it do its thing, man. You don't got to touch it. You don't want to day trade. You don't want to do anything funky with it. Put it into some general index funds or normal funds that just, normally, I think they're ETFs, that just kind of grow over time. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. Again, I'm not an expert in this stuff. I've done my research. I have experienced life a little bit, but to be honest, I just kind of set up my accounts and I forget about it. I don't think about this stuff every single day. I just like set it up and I'm like, yeah, it's doing its thing. Like, I should be good long term, hopefully, as long as the entirety of the economy doesn't collapse completely and utterly. The thing is, even when the economy collapses, even when it goes down, like during the pandemic or during the 2008 crash, when it goes down 30%, it never stays down there, dude. It always goes back up. It has never not gone back up. Ever. It always goes. If you ever look at the longest term, you can go to, I don't even know what the actual term is, but if you go to the actual stock market itself as a total and look at the 100-year value, you can see how much it has gone just whoop. It always goes up. It never goes down. Even when it does go down, it's like a little tiny dip. You're like, oh, that was a 30% dip at the time. But like on the entirety of the chart, it looks like so minuscule, so tiny, so insignificant that it's just kind of absurd. So here we go. We're making mad money at this point. What are we going to do with it? We're going to exponentially grow it even further. Let's get a bunch of banana research facilities at this point. Now we're using our money to make more money, and then going to use that money to make more money, and then use that money to make more money, and of course, just going to keep on growing this crap. Of course, Spirit of the Forest is making us money, but he's not exponentially growing his money like banana farms are. He's more of a helping us pop things kind of tower here. But either which way, I hope this gave you guys a reasonable example of what compound interest is and how it works and how hopefully you can utilize it towards your own goals. But I do want to point out that the fact that I understand that the economy right now is really, really rough, and even just saying, like, you should just do this does not incorporate everybody's experiences in real life, because you know what? I totally get it. The economy can really feel like it sucks sometimes. It can really feel like it's draining you, and you're like, I can't even afford the things that I want to afford right now, like food and housing and shelter. How am I supposed to put money in the stock market, Chris? I understand. I get it. Like, that's not the way it should be. And if you look back, like, I see why people, especially the, I want to say, like, the younger crowd, but people younger than me, I see why they're even angrier than I am. Because when you look at somebody who is like, I don't know, I want to be like a jerk here, like, and to say a job is minuscule or anything, because I totally did the exact same type of job. But if you worked at, like, an Ace Hardware or a Home Depot or a Lowe's or, like, a garden center or something like that, and you go back 40 years, you know, to the 1970s or the 80s or maybe even the 90s. Like, those people that were growing up were, like, getting paid so much money that they could afford a house, they could afford a car, they could afford their kids, they could afford to go on vacations, they could afford all these things on, like, either a single income or, like, a single and a half income from working just, I don't want to call it a meaningless job, but sort of a normal, regular job. And, like, people could still afford crazy crap. And it's like, if you weren't able to do crazy things with the amount of economic golden spoon that you were given, like, it was almost hard to screw it up. Like I get that, like, sometimes things can happen in people's lives that, like, you know, you can't control everything. But in general, a lot of the people, or the majority of the people, had it pretty easy-ish. As long as you went to your normalish job, you made a lot of money, and you were able to afford everything that you needed to in life. So, nowadays, that is not possible. You look at almost all of my friends, at the very least, it's like both of them are working jobs where they got a college degree. They're working at that job full-time, and they're quote-unquote dinking. If you've never heard of dinking, I think it's the funniest thing ever, but it's dual income, no kids. They're either dinking or they're just dying, I guess. That's just dual income with kids. But you don't say the with kids part. They're just dying at that point. But any which way, nobody's doing well. Out of all my friends, like, everybody's surviving, but nobody's like, oh, I have money surplus to do things with it. They're just trying to hang on, trying to get some money in the stock market so they're not completely broke when they get to retirement. And it feels a lot more miserable. Like, a lot of my friends aren't going on a lot of vacations or anything like that. They're just kind of surviving at this point. So I completely understand why people feel like they are getting shafted. I feel like we, as a millennial, I got hit hard by, it was 2005 or something like that, right when I got my license and I started having to buy gas, 2006, 7, right when gas was like $4 a gallon, when it was during the Iraq War, and like Hurricane Katrina came by and like screwed everything up. It was like, oh, gas prices are just going to be freaking ridiculous, right when you're like, oh, first allowed to drive, and now I have to drive to go to my job, pay bajillions of dollars in gas and insurance right from the get-go when I just didn't understand what I was getting myself into. And then as soon as I do that, it's like, oh, guess what, Chris? You graduated college. We're going to put you right into the Depression, the 2008 financial crisis where nobody can get a job ever. And you know what? Suck our balls on that, too. You know, while you're at it. You know, suck our balls. And then soon after that, you know, once I finally get going with life and I'm finally like, oh, let's do some YouTube stuff, it's like, well, YouTube is actually somewhat pandemic-proof. That's the one thing I've got going for me. But a lot of my friends did not have the same thing happen to them. They were not quite so pandemic-proof, and they got screwed over pretty hard by the pandemic. And it's like, dang, dude, like, I see why all of my friends are upset and why a lot of people are upset. Just things don't go according to plan all the time, and it freaking sucks. You know, and the economy just feels like it just keeps getting, we keep getting shafted left and right and all over the place. And right now actually feels the worst out of all of it, to be honest. Like, I feel like everybody says the economy is doing so well, but everybody I know is not doing well. Everybody's just like sort of hanging on and surviving rather than thriving. And don't get me wrong, people are all surviving. That's the thing. It's like, it's doing good enough where people are like, I could buy food and I can, you know, afford my house and stuff like that. Nobody's officially like, and again, I'm talking about my friends specifically, but are the people that I know specifically, but nobody's doing great. So, I don't know. It is what it is. And it comes at a time where, admittedly, for YouTube, I'm not doing that well because my health has been making me struggle so freaking hard, man, and I've been struggling to keep up with my videos. So, yeah, it is what it is. Anyways, if this helped you out at all, there's one other thing I'm gonna ask you guys to do for me. Now, this is a very down-to-earth ask and not like a hardcore ask, but one other thing that I recommend as far as financial freedom goes and financial security goes is actually having a credit card, but not using it for much. Especially if you're brand new to credit cards, don't use it for much. Don't just think it's free money. Don't just think you can walk around and buy whatever you want. But having a credit card and like putting your phone bill on it, something that like already exists, or just buying gas with it, or just doing whatever with it is really, really good until you can realize that you can trust yourself with a credit card and you can put other things on it without thinking it's free money and buying more stuff. So that's nice because you can get a really good credit score early on in life. And getting a good credit score, it means that whenever you want to borrow money for something like a car or a house or something else, even just regular old loans, anything besides basically a student loan, you'll get a better rate. And that's always a good thing to have. So I do recommend credit cards. You can do your own research on finding out whatever credit card you want. I have this weird thing where I have the ability to have a friend's code. And if you use my code, I get $100. And you get $100 for you getting a credit card using my code. So if you want to sign up with it, you can. I can only max out with, I think, 5 people. So it's like I'm not making $50,000 or anything off this thing. I'm going to get $500. This is a good chunk of money, don't get me wrong, for people signing up with my code. So if you want to do that, I'm going to leave it in the description. I'm not going to push it at all, at least not yet. We'll see. Usually I make a post once a year where I talk about it, but I think I'm gonna leave that off. I didn't do it last year. I was struggling too much in life. If you guys are interested, if you don't have a credit card yet, I'm going to recommend it. And again, don't go hard with it. Just pay the basic bills to get started. And if you realize that you can actually get a better potential out of it by gaining the 1% or 2% or 5% cash back, depending on your card, you can usually make more money off of it, actually. I've never given any money to a credit card, and I've made thousands of dollars off my credit cards. Literally, the banks give me money from my credit card, not from the friends thing. I mean, like, literally just by spending money, the banks eventually end up giving me money. Discover, in particular, has given me probably close to at least $1,000 from my rewards by giving me my 5% bonus every single year, using the quarterly bonuses at the 5%, and then getting 1% for everything that I spend on ever. So definitely check that out. Definitely look into it. Highly recommend it. If you, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. So anyways, that's it. I'm not gonna go to round 100 today. I'm just gonna leave it at round 85. I felt like I was pretty in depth with my video, and again, I focused mostly on the interest part and the fact that druids can now just boop, click that one button and make us tons of cash. It feels way better. I'm not gonna lie. It's just like a it just feels like they're Ninja Kiwis trying to make the game easier for us to play, which I do appreciate. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed, press that like button. If you disagree with me on anything, feel free to leave a comment below. I'm totally cool with people disagreeing with me and all that stuff and hating on me. Like, you know, I leave free comments. I'm not going to delete any comments, I promise. Unless YouTube deletes them, which can't happen if people spam or whatever. But I'm not going to delete anything on purpose that disagrees with me just because I can. And you guys can have some free thoughts in the comments below about if Chris is right or wrong or whatever. And of course, have a super duper delicious day.